Ancient humans ate mammoths. They ate horses. They ate rabbits. They even ate each other during extreme famines. But two animals sitting right beside them somehow escaped becoming dinner. Why? Wolves, cats, two predators, both dangerous, both edible, both sitting close enough to kill without a fight. And yet neither one ever ended up on the fire. That's not an accident. That's a decision, made without writing, without language as we'd recognize it, without a single committee or council ever discussing it out loud, repeated so many times across so many camps that it eventually rewired two entire species, and it happened during a time when every single calorie mattered, when one bad season could wipe out an entire group, when sparing a dangerous animal instead of eating it could genuinely mean the difference between surviving winter and not. Here's the obvious guess. Maybe they just tasted bad? Wrong. Starving people don't care about taste. Ancient humans ate insects, rotting meat, bitter roots, things that would make a modern stomach turn. Anything that kept them alive one more day. Flavor was never the deciding factor. So what was? Math. Cold, brutal math. A wolf eats meat to survive. Lots of it. Roughly a dozen deer-sized kills a year just to keep one wolf alive. Kill the wolf and you get one meal. Let the wolf hunt instead and you get access to everything it would have caught for years. Here's where it gets interesting. Every step up a food chain wastes energy. Grass feeds the deer feeds the wolf. By the time you reach the wolf, most of that original energy is already gone, burned off just keeping the wolf alive long enough to hunt again. Eat the wolf and you're eating what's left after most of the value has already disappeared. A wolf is the last, thinnest slice of a much bigger meal that already happened without you, but that's only half the story. A live wolf wasn't just inefficient to eat, it was dangerous to ignore. Picture a camp at night. No walls, no locks, just firelight and darkness pressing in from every direction. Something is always out there. Predators, rival tribes, things that move only after the sun goes down. Fear wasn't occasional back then. It was constant, low, and unrelenting. Every unfamiliar sound could mean nothing, or it could mean everything. The difference between waking up tomorrow and not waking up at all. Now imagine a wolf lying at the edge of that firelight, ears twitching, catching a sound no human ear could ever detect. That wolf doesn't need to attack anything. It just needs to growl once. One camp sleeps through the night. Another camp doesn't wake up at all. That single difference, a warning, seconds before danger arrives, was worth infinitely more than a single dinner. So humans didn't domesticate the friendliest wolves. They domesticated the useful ones, the calm ones, the ones that stuck around instead of fleeing and barked instead of biting. Picture the alternative. A wolf that panicked at every torch, that snapped at children, that bolted the moment a human got close. That wolf didn't get a second chance. It either left or it was killed before it could cause harm. Generation after generation, those wolves survived closer to humans. The aggressive ones didn't. Not through kindness, through simple, repeated selection. The calm ones lived, bred, and stayed, but trust wasn't automatic, and it never happened overnight. Imagine the first time a parent let one of these animals near a sleeping child, heart pounding, watching closely for any sign of hesitation. One wrong move, one bite, and the entire experiment ends instantly, permanently, for that family, and probably for that entire bloodline of wolves too. Every single wolf allowed near a child had already passed a test no one wrote down, simply by not being the kind of animal that made anyone nervous. That's not a small thing. That's trust built one generation at a time, tested every single night. And here's the part almost nobody expects. Scientists once ran an experiment breeding silver foxes for one trait only: tameness, nothing else. Within a few decades, those foxes started developing floppier ears, curlier tails, patchy fur, traits nobody selected for on purpose. Tameness, it turns out, doesn't travel alone. It drags a whole cluster of changes behind it. That's likely what happened to wolves, just slower and without anyone running the experiment on purpose. Here's something that should stop you cold. Archaeologists in Germany once uncovered a grave over 14,000 years old. Inside it, a human, buried carefully, surrounded by the belongings of a life already lived. And curled right beside them, buried with that exact same care, a dog. Not tossed aside, not discarded. Buried like family, like something that mattered enough to take into the ground with you. That means the bond wasn't new even then. By the time anyone thought to write anything down, humans and dogs had already been sharing graves for thousands of years. Cats followed a stranger path entirely. Once humans started storing grain, rodents showed up almost overnight. And where there are rodents, wild cats follow. Humans didn't invite the cats invited themselves, slipping into granaries at night, killing the pests that threatened an entire season's food supply. Humans noticed, and humans let them stay. Here's the part that's easy to miss. Nobody ever tamed a cat the way they tamed a wolf. There was no filtering, no generations of careful selection for temperament. Cats just showed up, solved a problem, and never left. Of every animal humans ever lived alongside, cats may be the only one that essentially domesticated itself. It gets stranger still. In ancient Egypt, that quiet arrangement eventually turned into something closer to worship. Killing a cat, even by accident, could carry serious consequences under the law. Some were mummified with the same care given to royalty, wrapped and preserved for an afterlife. A relationship that started as pest control ended, centuries later, as reverence. No training, no bond at first. Just a mutual understanding that formed itself without permission from anyone and grew into something far bigger than either species could have predicted. Here's the twist that changes everything. Neither animal was spared out of kindness, not affection, not friendship, not anything we'd recognize today as love. They were spared because a living wolf or a living cat delivered more value across an entire season than either one's body ever could in a single meal. That's not a nice story. That's survival arithmetic. Cold, repeated, and utterly indifferent to sentiment. And it gets stranger still. That arithmetic didn't just spare two animals for one season. It rewrote their biology, their behavior, their entire evolutionary path, permanently, across thousands of generations, without either species having any idea it was happening. The wolf sleeping in your home tonight isn't there because an ancient human loved it. It's there because 10,000 years ago, someone made a calculation, and it worked so well, it never stopped. Not for one generation, not for 100, for every single generation since, without exception, right up to tonight. Love came later, much later, once the danger faded and all that remained was the habit of keeping them close. So the next time your dog's ears twitch at nothing or your cat stares at an empty corner of the room for no reason at all, remember what you're actually looking at. Not a pet, a survivor. The winning side of the oldest, coldest negotiation in human history. One that started as arithmetic, survived 14,000 years of graves, famines, and firelight, and somehow, slowly, quietly, turned into love.